In this vast musical landscape and the sheer rate at which things are released in the digital age, I tend to overestimate my ability to keep up in the rat race. Ultimately, it starts like a donut eating competition, in which I plow through a decent amount in the first few minutes and eventually slow down, overstuff my palate, and end up lying in a pungent swamp of my own sick. In doing this, I have this subconscious expectation that whatever comes my way shouldn't waste my time, which makes sense, but for some reason it comes to me that this means the music should seem fresh and adventurous to avoid being boring and blending into the rest of the contemporary landscape. In other words, I tend to worry about listening to things that are probably good but nothing new. I'd like to extend an invitation for you to let go of this expectation, as it removes the ability to enjoy something purely for what it is, because when I do that, I manage to enjoy things like Claude Fontaine's self-titled debut Right Here, which sidles up and hugs the decade-old influences of Bossa Nova and Reggae so tightly, I'd be fooled enough if they wound up on a period compilation somewhere. From the get-go, I am thinking that Cry for Another, with its sinuous bass line and its sultry sax harmonies, would fit perfectly on an archival tape of sorts. Fontaine herself has this voice that faintly hovers over these songs like a ghost calling from the other end of the corridor, but instead of being a menacingly mysterious one, the jovial and cheerful setup of these songs make her seem like the sort of ghost that calls you over to hand you back the colouring pencils that she borrowed a week ago. By the time the song Little Sister comes around, Fontaine has come into her own as the front of her own vision, catchy and even more wistful. Some piano notes plinker in the background as if this wasn't clear enough already. The gentler Bossa Nova songs shine just as much, like I'll Play the Fool, a perfect song for Fontaine's voice to faintly lead the song down mysterious, even regretful paths. I can't whistle too well, but the melody of this one makes me want to practice until I can tweet so pitch precise. Those local insurance companies would want to hire me for the jingle on their radio commercials. This is all fantastic praise being slung around for something so seemingly simple. And so be it. Keeping it simple means that you don't have to overcomplicate what can already be such a wonderful experience at its core, which makes it far more baffling that whoever mastered this album decided to crush it under the weight of what seems like 45 glass window panes. The sound smudges like I'm listening to everything through those earmuffs I wear when I'm mowing the lawn. What's the point of having such tasty bass grooves if all of them end up booming harder than West Side Gun's voicemails? The songs are so well written and composed enough with Fontaine's very crystal clear prowess and talent, but regardless, it takes something that could have been so crisp and ends up soaking them in water for 10 minutes. Absolutely pointless. I suppose at the end of the day it is a decently written album and it does serenade me enough to grant it a 6 out of 10. I mean, come on, I'm not heartless, at least I wouldn't like to think. Last week I did tell a stranger about the right bus to catch if you wanted to head down west. Gee, I'm such a nice guy. Also easy on the ears, but this time without feeling the need to soak itself in pineapple juice for absolutely no reason, is Nicola Cruz's new album, Siku, which presents itself as a very tasteful fusion of South American, Latin, and indigenous styles of music, ranging from Cumbia to stuff that isn't Cumbia. Okay, to be honest, I wish I could provide more insight on geographical placements of these original styles that serve as the inspiration for Cruz's very comfy yet intricately layered sound play over endlessly entertaining beat patterns. I wish I could just throw around some pins on an atlas and just tell you where each one is from, but perhaps I, with my Western ears, have barely scratched the surface, and can only appreciate distantly how well fused everything is, to the point where it's like the Hindustani raga instrumentation on Siete was always intended by heart to fuse with the sensual, hip-swaying Cumbia rhythm. There does come a worry whether such endeavours are done out of pure respect and curious ambition for the individual cultures, or whether it's just done for the sake of tasteless aesthetic splattering that dry humps the post-colonial fleshlight of world music fetishization. But albums like these remind me that the former is always present somewhere, giving me hope for the ever-expanding possibilities of electronic music that takes inspiration from indigenous cultures with the very genuine intention of opening us up to these places mostly unseen to the Western eye. This is a rather hefty takeaway from an album that primarily just intends to be groovy in a bunch of cool ways, but if I can be pleased at the results, I will. The drums on Obsidiana are as therapeutic to listen to as much as the cowbells and chimes that end up reminding me of trickling water, and ultimately I do have to pee, which is not a great interruption for my immersion in the worlds of forestry and tropicalia set extremely well on Siku, as well as the preceding track El Diablo me va a llevar, but ultimately that's a me problem, or should I say a Mimi problem. Nicola Cruz gets it. I think it does end up being one of the most exciting musical fusions that I've heard this year, in spite of some of the needlessly low energy lulls towards the end like Okami, but generally the very gentle and relaxed energy of the entire thing does make it something I would like to come back to again and again. In fact, I will. 7 out of 10.